Hey guys.
Hello everyone, and welcome to this edition of Fantasy Top 5 Podcast.
The post trade deadline edition. And as you can
That's
see,
true.
we are all still here. You might not have seen Lane yet, but he's still here as well.
Yeah, it's kind of weird that the NFL trade deadline and the podcast trade deadline end at the same time.
That is kind of random.
It is kind of weird.
It
but
sucks
yeah,
for
no-
basketball podcasts because they have like one episode and then someone
they
could
can't-
get traded very
Well, I think
easily.
they have another something for that. Yeah, that doesn't really make any sense, but it's good. There were a lot of weird, crazy trade rumors in the podcast world.
Yeah,
so
there really were.
that's good. I heard that I almost got traded to a sewing podcast, which doesn't make any sense. 'Cause I don't know anything about sewing at all.
I
And
think you're quite the sewer.
I
think
tried
you would do.
once.
I think you'd do well there.
I don't know what I would talk about. And apparently, the girl that was going to come here that was trading she had no idea anything about fantasy football. Apparently, she was really hot. So I don't.
Oh.
That seems really weird. Why
Yeah,
would
that
she
is-
come?
That is kind of weird. I don't
Why would she
know.
come?
I don't know. I didn't really hear a whole lot about that. Did you hear anything about that, Lane? Hot girl traded for
Well,
Eric?
Well, what about me?
Yeah, I don't know.
Nothing I want to tell you about.
Oh, okay. All
What
right.
about you too, as well, Sean?
Yeah, I actually almost got traded to a Fantasy StarCraft 2 podcast, and I actually it's a little weird because I consider myself a nerd, but in an entirely sports related realm. Like I play video games, but mostly sports video games, and then I haven't done a lot of StarCraft, but I think I maybe would have done well there. The crazy thing about it is there was no one in the trade rumor. There was no one that was supposed to be coming back here. All they said was most of the reports were Eric had requested a trade because he wanted to do the podcast
What?
on his own, which is a little
no,
crazy.
I don't know where they got that from.
Yeah.
That must have been some weird because I would never have said
Yeah.
anything like that.
I don't-
You're a very valuable asset to the show, Sean. I would never
I don't know. There was a
I would
lot
never
of
want to be a star.
a lot of I'm the star in there. There was a lot of
That's
basically
all hearsay.
everyone
That's
who
all
was
hearsay.
talking about it was referencing that it was very similar to when Chris Johnson was doing his holdout a couple of seasons ago, and I was like, it does sound kind of like that, but I can't see Eric doing that. So
No, I'm a very humble person. We do this podcast together, and that was really weird because Lane wasn't in any of these. He just
there was a rumor that he may just produce silence and still get paid our salaries as well, which wouldn't be helping him a lot because we're barely doing anything, and Lane's getting all the quiche. So
Yeah, the trick is to get ambient noise like this. You hear that?
Oh,
yeah.
that
That's
is
good.
That's the trick.
it's good. That's way better than our voices, actually. But
He knows all the trick. That's why he makes all the money, and we
Yeah.
don't make anything. It's just,
But yeah, so it's same old us. But if you want to, go ahead and close your eyes, and imagine me sitting here giving you fantasy advice, and then a nice lady sitting beside me in a bikini, not talking a whole lot, because why would we have her talk?
I thought you said you didn't know anything about
no,
that.
I didn't. But I'm just saying that bikini model that also does a sewing podcast that we were going to trade you for. Supposedly.
Supposedly.
She just imagine it, and then also if you dare, close your eyes and imagine this podcast with only Eric, just talking, just his beautiful voice, no lows that my voice brings, just that beautiful, those highs.
I'm glad no one got traded. I think this
Yeah.
podcast is good just the way it is. So yeah, we are Fantasy Top 5. We do a podcast on fantasy news, and we do a pretty good job, I think. We do a live podcast on Justin TV, on justin.tv/fantasy top 5. You can come in and chat with us live. You can also download our podcast in iTunes, Stitcher, and other podcast apps. You can find us on Twitter,
Facebook,
at Fantasy Top 5.
Tumblr. Yeah, all of it's under Fantasy Top 5.
Spelled out, FIVE. And you can go to our website, fantasytop5.com. We always have polls. Sean put up some awesome polls that you can vote and be a part of the show.
Yeah, and-
which I really like that because then people can go on and they can, we talk on Monday about what we think.
Yeah, and
we
then
wanna
we
hear what our listeners think.
Yeah, we
so.
want to get everyone interacting with us. That's kind of the goal of the podcast, is have it be very interactive. That's why we love getting questions, and we love answering questions. We love getting comments. So yeah, go do any of that stuff. Go on, check out our website. Leave us a comment there. You can download us on iTunes and basically anything, FeedBurner. You can also listen to our podcasts on our website. You can like us on Facebook. You can tweet at us. Just any of that. Any of it. We
You could
love to see
spend
any of
hours
it.
and hours and hours just hanging out and just looking at all of our stuff. Just do it. Just spend the night and just say, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to spend my night with Fantasy Top 5.
It'll be an
and do
enjoyable
it.
night.
It'll be a good night. You won't
Pour you
regret it.
a little red wine. Turn on some
Turn on
some
nice
Barry
slow
White
jams.
and just relax
Just
with
sit
us.
down with Fantasy Top 5.
Let us take you to a nice place. All right, but seriously, we have football to talk about. I don't
we
know what that was.
do. That
So,
was
yeah.
good. We always start out our show with Newses and Bruises, which is our top 5 news stories and our top 5 injury reports of the week. We actually do it Monday and Thursday, so it's not really of the week, but we do 2 of them here. Our first one, like we talked about in the earlier podcast, the trade deadline from the NFL is over, and the NFL, they just don't do a lot of trading.
Yeah, that's the one thing I
NBA is
do
a
like with the
huge-
NBA is they trade, and since their systems are so basic, like football, the offensive and defensive packages are so complex that it's hard to bring someone in middle of the season and have them work out for you. But in basketball, like look at Harden last night. Harden came out and destroyed, like 2 days after being traded. Like in basketball, you can do that, and like if you can find a weird trade out there in your fantasy basketball league, get Lynn. Like he is going to look so good this year with Harden on the team. Like it's going to be crazy. Houston's legit now, but this is football, so I'll get off that.
We should maybe do a fantasy basketball podcast, but we don't. But and then so the only 2 trades that happened, Mike Thomas from the Jacksonville Jaguars was traded to the Lions for a draft pick, and I think that had to do a lot with Nate Burleson going down. Even though Titus Young looked really good, Mike Thomas isn't great, but we'll see what he does in that offense.
And a lot of it, Mike Thomas is actually still kind of young, and I think as much as I like Gabbert right now, he's still up and coming. I think a quarterback like Stafford can really help him out. I think it'll take a few weeks, but I honestly think he'll be fantasy relevant by like week 12 and help them on trying to get into the playoffs because they looked a lot better last week than they had.
did.
So,
And the other one is Aqib Talib from the Buccaneers was traded to the Patriots, which is another crazy one because the Patriots defense has actually looked pretty good, and a guy like Aqib Talib is definitely someone. I mean, it's a name, and someone really good. So it does make the Patriots defense a little bit better. He was suspended. I'm not sure if he still is or not.
I know he was at least
he's on
suspended
they're
for
on
this
bye
week,
This week,
but-
so I think he's done, and yeah, that makes the Patriots defense a little bit better as far as fantasy wise. They may be someone to pick up. So, my number 2 news story is starting positions in the NFL. It looks like Vic will remain the starter in Philly, which we all kind of assumed, especially with the Monday night show against the Saints' awful defense. It looks like Donald Brown and Ballard are going to share their workload in Indianapolis, and D'Angelo Williams is officially no longer the starter in Carolina.
and
Those are the
all of
three.
that is Vic is. I think Vic will remain the starter until they're out of the playoff hunt because Andy Reid's not stupid and he knows his job's on the line this year. I think, and as good as the rookie there has looked,
Yeah, Foles.
yeah, as good as Foles has looked, I don't think he's gonna take out Vic and be like, well, let's just roll with this rookie because if they don't make it to deep into the playoffs this year, I think Reed's gone.
So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think Vic should remain the starter, but he really hasn't looked good. I'm excited to watch this Monday. It'll be. I'm really excited for it. I like the Eagles. I want to see what they look like on prime time against an awful defense. I think Vic will just do really well. So. That'll be good. My number 3 is it looks as though Victor Cruz is going to get a new contract.
Which no reason why he wouldn't.
Kind of been talking about it. He's only going to make like $500,000 this year. He's not going to make like hardly anything for the way that he's performed. It looks like they've been talking about it for like a month now. It's starting to get underway. Nothing's official yet, but it's good for him. He's actually performed really well this year. So it's kind of that thing where you kind of wanted to come out and see, can he do it again? And so far this year, he pretty much has. I mean,
he had a slow start, but he
Yeah.
has looked great in the last few weeks.
he has. Number 4, Cam Newton has admitted that this year has been a very humbling experience for him, which is good because that's what we talked about last week, Monday or Thursday, is that he's used to winning. He's always won his whole life. He's never had to really
Well,
He's never had it hard.
he's an extraordinary talent. Like if you look at him, like he's one of those guys that can breeze through his whole career going to the, and then coming into the NFL, he may struggle based on just how easy it's been for him. Like he's built like a tight end, but he plays quarterback. Like he's a special guy.
Yeah, and he had a good year, not as far as the team, but as far as him, he had a good year last year.
Mm-hmm.
And then this year he's kind of struggled a little bit. I still think he's going to end the year, and I'll talk about that later in my starts, that I think the rest of the year he'll do a lot better. But and my number 5, like I always say, I always try to make it a little bit crazy. Kind of more of a funny news story than anything else. But apparently Tim Tebow has a new girlfriend.
Oh.
And she's a famous actress.
Famous
I don't know if I would say
actress.
famous, but she's an actress. Her name is Camilla Bell. And apparently she's in a new movie called Caveman with Chad Michael Murray, which I thought you would enjoy, Sean. I
I do like that.
I know you and your Chad Michael Murray love.
He is a beautiful man.
You are the sole person in his fan club.
I really am. I do have a CMM tat on my across those small on my back.
I've seen that. You're quite the fan. You send him love letter. I mean, you send him fan letters.
Fan letters, yeah. You get her straight.
There we go.
Straight.
And so she's been in a few movies.
Straight. Sorry.
No, I liked it. And yeah, Tim Tebow. Apparently, she also dated Joe Jonas. And they said that that it makes sense because Joe Jonas also had his
Faith.
yeah, where he didn't want to do anything until marriage. So I think Tebow may have found the perfect famous.
Or she's a cock tease and only likes to date guys who aren't going to push her to give it up.
That's true.
So there that
She's pretty
is.
attractive. I'm not gonna lie. Tebow did pretty good for himself. They went bowling. It was quite the intense date. I heard it was it got pretty crazy. So there we go. We'll move on to our bruises. My number 1 bruise, which is really big, is Peyton Manning. Apparently, he's unaffected by the thumb injury that he received in practice. So
Guy's a machine.
I know you were worried about it, Sean.
I was really worried about
That's
it.
actually not my number 1. I just thought it would make you angry because I know how much you hate Peyton Manning.
I don't hate. I love Peyton Manning. I hate the Broncos, but no, Peyton Manning. He played the rest of the. He played the rest of the game fine. Like I wasn't too worried about it. And that's the thing is they're going to make
It's
the
not
biggest
really the
deal.
number one.
Out of all these little things that happen with him.
It was a major story. I mean, all these other ones
Yeah.
you kind of had to search for him and find out. And
Yeah.
big bold letters. Peyton Manning's okay with his thumb injury.
He may not be able to deliver pizzas for Papa John's now. That's what they were worried about. It's his Papa John's stuff.
So my real number 1 is Ryan Tannehill, which is pretty intense. He had a hyperextended knee, and he still practiced. He said he doesn't feel 100%, but he thinks there's a good chance he will play, which is good.
Hopefully, because I picked him up because he's going against the Colts and they don't have a good pass defense. And then that happens the week before.
Yeah, his MRI was okay. There's no structural damage, but it still was a pretty big injury.
Yeah,
So,
RT1.
which I do love that. So definitely keep an eye on him if you own him like Sean. My number 2 is Jordy Nielsen. With his hamstring injury, he did not practice. It looks like there's a good chance he will not play again. So, which is really crazy because that kind of came out of nowhere.
And also, as much as I'm high on their 3rd and 4th receiver, which is James Jones and Randall Cobb there in Green Bay, I'm high on them because they're the 3rd and 4th receiver. They don't get the number 1 guys covering them. And I'm going to be honest, like the Cardinals don't have a slouch defense. Like they had a lot harder time than, and maybe people are like, well, they just went out and they didn't play hard because it was the Jaguars last week. But they didn't have the easiest time without Jordy Nelson and Greg Jennings. So if
that was not a blowout win by any means.
Yeah, it was. And if Jordy Nelson doesn't play this week, I wouldn't be surprised if the Cardinals upset him there.
That's crazy. That's pretty bold.
That's what I do.
My number 3 is Jonathan Dwyer. He did not practice, but it looks like he'll be back. Mendenhall was limited, and Redmond was a full participant in yesterday's practice. So that running back situation there in Pittsburgh is quite crazy.
Yeah, it's interesting.
If you own any of them, I don't know if I would play any of them unless you really, really needed to. And even then, I would get up really early Sunday and just do a lot of research. Really sit down, just really look at that injury report, study it.
Yeah, just find.
You don't want to play one of them, and then.
Yeah, because it's one of those situations where I think I think they could all do decent, but the Giants' D has looked really solid lately, and I think Dwyer would have the best shot if he's 100%. Because, like I've said,
Yeah,
Redmond has only been good out of the backfield catching passes, and
you like Dwyer.
yeah, I love Dwyer. And then Mendenhall, I've never thought was great. He's always
He's
a
never
top
been-
20 guy, maybe, but never, I would say, a top 15 guy, in my mind, anyways. He just gets a lot of work there, so it kind of makes him look good.
Yeah, right around 15.
Mm-hmm.
He's been taken as like the 11th, 12th in a few years. But yeah, I mean, he's never been that great. And for them to find someone who's maybe a little bit better. If you own Mendenhall, I would keep on. I have him. I'm going to keep him, but I don't know if I don't want to play him anytime soon just until I know. And especially because he was limited.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, it's definitely a crazy situation there. My number 4 is Kobe Fleener, the tight end for the Colts, who's actually been doing decent. Not bad. He has a shoulder injury, but looks like he's going to be out for the next 2 weeks no matter what. So
Okay.
kind of a pretty big deal. My number 5 is Mikel LaShore. He apparently did not have an injury, but he came out of the game and then also sat out of practice. So I don't know what's up with him, but they've stated it's not injury related.
Yeah, I heard that
it's
too. and I was-
kind of a weird. It's kind of weird. I don't know what to make of it.
yeah, they seem like they
Um,
don't want to tell you what's going on with him.
Oh, right here. He had a son.
Oh, well, at least it's a positive.
That's true.
Yeah, it's a... Hopefully, anyways.
It's very true. He apparently had a birth of a child, so that's good.
I don't know why they would hold back on telling that.
And I don't know why he sat out part of the game on Sunday because of that as well. He was like, "Oh man, I'm having a kid on Wednesday."
He's
Oh my
texting the wife.
gosh.
It's like, you about ready to have that kid, girl?
Because I'm not going to go back in the game if we are. I
Yeah.
don't want to die. So yeah, good for him. Congratulations, and yeah, hopefully he plays.
Yeah, hopefully.
So there we go. Newses and bruises.
All right, awesome. All right, we're going to move over to the top 5 drop-offs and bounce-backs. And I was talking about these guys a little bit just a minute ago, and my number 1 drop-off of the week is the Giants' defense. They were the number 1 fantasy defense last week, and they've averaged 14 points in their last 3 games, and they just have looked great. They've been getting to the quarterback. They've been stopping the run. They've just done good. They're causing turnovers, but I think going up against the Steelers this week, they're going to go on there. They're going to go there, and I think Roethlisberger is Roethlisberger, so he is good at avoiding sacks and stuff and extending plays. So I think they're going to have a lot of trouble there. And then depending on what they get back in their running back situation there, I think they could have a really tough running attack going up against them. So I think this is one of those weeks where the Giants are going to be outside like the top 15, even maybe, probably outside the top 10. But I don't know. I just don't think they're going to be able to hold up against the Steelers' offense. The Steelers have looked great.
Yeah, they have.
Roethlisberger's looked really, really good. So yeah,
I don't know if I would trust either defense. If I own the Giants or the Steelers, I don't think I would play either of them.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a higher scoring game than people think. So
That's how I feel as well. So if you have
Yeah.
both of them, yeah, I would try to. I mean, of course, if you have them, you probably need to play them, but I wouldn't expect a lot.
yeah. All right, and then my number 2 drop off of the week is Percy Harvin, who is averaging the 5th most fantasy points of all receivers so far this season. He's been getting the ball in all kinds of situations. If you're PPR, he's just killing it. He catches the ball constantly. He even goes in the backfield and runs it. But this week he's going up against the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah.
And the Seahawks have got some big corners who are physical, and I think they're going to go in there and I think they're going to push him around, and he's not the biggest guy. And I think they're just going to find ways to shut him down. I think they'll get him frustrated, and then I think he'll underperform this week.
He also missed practice yesterday as well, but apparently it was another family matter. Maybe he had a kid too. Who knows?
Yeah, everyone's just having kids.
But
Yeah.
he will be back tomorrow. So, but still, yeah. So it's not an injury related thing, but still,
Yeah.
yeah, going up against that.
And they're so damn physical in Seattle. And then also with Harvin, he's only had 2 games under 10 fantasy points, but I think this is going to be his 3rd game. So yeah, I wouldn't start Harvin if you have someone decent to replace him. All right, and then my 3rd drop off of the week is Andy Luck, he's basically looked like the second coming of Peyton Manning there in
Yeah, he
Indianapolis.
really has.
He's came out and he's basically shut up all the doubters that thought that he couldn't come out and excel in his rookie season. And right now he's the number 9 fantasy quarterback.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, he's in the top 10, and that's huge for a rookie. But actually, two of the rookies are in the top 10. And that's insane to me.
Where's
But
RG3 at? Is he
RG3
one?
is number 2.
Two?
Drew Brees, which is weird because Drew Brees did awful last game, but is number 1. And then, yeah, Luck is he's looked awesome, and he's another guy who is going up against a really tough defense in the Dolphins. And the Dolphins haven't done great against the pass, but they've steadily been improving. And I think the Dolphins know that the Colts don't really have a good running attack, so they'll be able to focus on the passing game a little bit more. And this is one of those situations where Luck has got the Colts right now to, if the season ended today, they would be in the playoffs. But if the season ended today,
crazy.
the Dolphins would also be in the playoffs. And as luck would have it, the season doesn't end today, so they're going to have to fight it out. And
As
this
Luck would have it.
Yeah.
Andrew Luck would have it. Oh, except if Andrew Luck did have it, he probably would say, "Yeah, we can end it today."
Yeah, we'll go ahead. We'll finish it now. But so I think it's going to be crazy because these two are teams who last year they didn't have a shot in hell of doing well.
Yeah.
And then this year, like I said, they're both in the playoff hunt in a big way. And so, yeah, I think Luck's going to have a bad game, but I think this is going to be a really good game to watch. So, yeah, I wouldn't you probably have to start him, but if you have him. But, yeah, I don't think he's
Maybe
going to.
not. I have him, and I.
Oh, yeah, I guess a lot of people
picked
were
him up
low on
late,
him.
yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
But as someone who had Rivers and Luck, that's.
Yeah, that's tough. Yeah.
We'll go over that later as well.
All right, and then
A
we're
lot
gonna
of stuff.
move to my fourth drop off of the week, and it's Owen Daniels, who has had an amazing start to this season. He's averaging the 4th most fantasy points of all tight ends,
Yeah.
and he's just done great. And then people are probably like, why are you not gonna play him against the Bills? And I wouldn't even say don't play him. I just don't think he's gonna have a huge game. And the Bills are a terrible defense, but the
Yes,
best
they are.
part of their defense is their coverage against tight ends. They're awful against the run. They're really bad against the pass, but way worse against wide receivers than they are against tight ends. So I think the wide receivers are going to get some action there, and I think
He'll get
Owen
ignored.
Daniels is going to. I just don't think they're going to need him. So
Mhm.
so yeah, I think Daniels is going to be low. I think he's going to be outside the top 10. And then
Nice.
my number 5 drop off of the week is C.J. Spiller, who he's in the top 5. Well, he's number 5 in fantasy points of all running backs, and he's done
Which is
great.
impressive.
Yeah, but he's one of those guys who he had just a crazy, like, over the top 3 games there
Yeah,
right
he
at the
did.
beginning of the season, and he hasn't looked great so far.
Yeah. Since then, Fred Jackson's came back, and
And they're splitting the load there.
they both had decent games. I mean, even with
Mhm.
him coming back, they both had double-digit games in the same game, which is crazy.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, I think a lot of his game is he can get out of the backfield and he can make people miss. But I just to put it simply, I think the Texans are way too disciplined to fall into the
Such a
Spiller
good
trap.
defense.
Yeah, so I would expect him to have a subpar game this week. Now we're going to move over to my bounce backs of the week. And my number 1 bounce back of the week is Andre Johnson, who is he's been
Nice.
a terrible player for
Yes, he
fantasy
has.
owners this year. He's actually outside the top 30 in fantasy points. And that's insane because
Yeah, if you have either Johnson,
he
Andre or Calvin, you're hurting. And if you have both, you're pretty much wanting to commit suicide like I am every week. So that's always
yeah,
good.
that is rough.
Every Sunday night,
I think this will be a good week for the Johnsons though.
that's what I'm hoping. I'm really hoping to have a bounce back week. 'Cause
Yeah.
I can't take it anymore.
Yeah.
Anyway, keep going.
Yeah.
Enough about me and my awful fantasy team.
Yeah, but basically
On to the news.
Yeah, basically Andre Johnson is going up against the Bills, who are the 4th most who give up the 4th most points to fantasy receivers. And like I was saying before, they are going to be going to him. I think he's going to be open a lot. I think their defense, the Bills' defense, is going to be focusing on Arian Foster, and I think
Which they should be.
yeah, and I think Johnson's just going to have a big week.
Aaron Foster's ran all over everyone.
Yeah,
At this point, it's got
he's
to flip
insane.
around, and people have got to start really paying attention to him and less to Andre Johnson because
Well, because Andre Johnson hasn't earned the attention he's getting the last 2 years, even. Like, because he's injury prone and he's just not playing like Andre Johnson. So yeah, I would go ahead and just. I would definitely start him this week. I think he's going to do great, and I literally think the Texans will have to try their hardest to avoid him for him not to have a big week. That's how much faith I have in how terrible the Bills' defense is against wide receivers. So yeah, start that guy. And then my number 2 bounce back of the week is a guy who we've all been tearing apart the last couple weeks, and I think there's good reason for it. But it is Cam Newton, and he is had a huge sophomore slump. But he's going up against the Redskins this year. He's going up against the Cam Newton of this year in RG3. And I think he's going to come out and I think he's just going to play out of his mind. I think he's going to have something to prove. And I think this is going to be one of the more exciting games because it's Cam Newton and it's RG3.
it'll be good.
2 years in a row, the two guys that were just like, everyone's like, oh my gosh, these guys are insane. And then, and also it doesn't hurt that the Redskins are awful against quarterbacks. They give up the 3rd most fantasy points. And I think Cam Newton's going to come out and I think he's going to remind everyone why they loved him last year. So that's going to be a very, very exciting game, in my opinion.
I
Anyways.
think he'll do really good.
And then I think this is the podcast of hey, everyone who's really down on their team, this is going to help you out. Because at number 3, and a lot of other fantasy people are really low on him again this week, and I don't really get it, but it is Larry Fitzgerald, who has had a season filled with being a great wide receiver and going out and people being like, you're so great. And he's like, yeah, I know. I'm kind of humble, though, so I'm going to be like, I guess I'm okay at football, but I don't know. And then he has these 2 quarterbacks that are like, neither one of us are good, but you could get in sync with one of us if we stayed healthy, but then they just keep getting hurt and hurt and hurt. This one's
cool
back.
Story.
This one's
like
back.
it.
Yeah, and then but then
fairy
this week,
tale.
he goes in to. Let me see. They play at Green Bay. Yeah, they play at Green Bay. He's going into Lambeau Field as a villain. He's going to go in there, and he's going to... All right, this story's stupid now.
No, I like it.
All right,
Keep going.
All right, he's going to go in. The rain clouds are going to come over. The thunder's going to roll in. And the only thing Charles Woodson, the hero, some would say, of the Packers defense is watch from the sidelines because he's hurt as Larry Fitzgerald just tears apart that defense. And that's what I believe he's going to do. Larry Fitzgerald is going to come in and he's going to just go off on them. So
I want to
start
watch
that
every
guy.
one of these games, and they're all in the morning.
Yeah, they're all good games.
And we can't watch any of them. Like, I want to hear that story play out. I want to see it unfold.
I hope it really does rain because I would feel a lot better about my story.
I liked it. It was kind of like a bedtime story. Once again, you can sit down with it. Yeah, just let your kids listen to it. It's a good bedtime story.
Yeah, turn it on. We'll entertain the kids. Just make sure you use their smartphone and download it on theirs and yours. So we're not. That's not how we roll. We want both. You listen to it on your own time. You get your kids to download it too. All right, but my 4th bounce back of the week is going to be Ryan Matthews, who is yet to have a 100-yard rushing game, and he hasn't been
tonight.
Yeah, he hasn't been awful, but he has been. But
he's had flashes where I was down on just because it's been waiting and waiting and waiting, and I'm like, I'm tired of waiting. But then you watch him, and he's still. I can see why everyone's waiting.
He's an explosive guy.
Yeah, looks.
And and this week he's going up against the Chiefs' run defense, and they are not very good.
No.
And Matthews is just that guy where he has games where he's just going to go off, and I think this is going to be one of them. And I think it'll be his first 100-yard rushing game of the season. And I think it'll be his breakout game of this season because I guess he had one game that was like 20 points, but I just think Ryan Matthews is going to do great tonight against the Chiefs' terrible run defense. And it's kind of crazy because I have Ryan Matthews and I have Jamal Charles in our one league, but I was able to draft all these people that people were down on. Like I got Charles, I got Doug Martin because everyone's like, yeah, Doug Martin's going to do great. Tampa Bay's offense ain't nothing. Now they're like, oh, hey, what about that? So, and I also got Bradshaw because he's so
Good.
injury prone, and they've all done awesome. So I was able to get Ryan Matthews because he was hurt, and Jamal Charles, he's off injury. So I just have this team, but I'm actually not going to start Charles this week because San Diego's great against the run, and this has nothing to do with the bounce back. So I'm going to finish that thought and move on to my number 5, my last bounce back of the week, who is Brian Hartline. And I actually told someone to take a chance and start him over Ben Jarvis, Green Ellis. So I'm really kind of hoping that this pays off. But like I've said, the Colts are not a good defense, passing anyways. They're pretty okay against the run sometimes, and they can get to the quarterback occasionally, but they're not a great defense really at all. And Hartline, after having a huge beginning of the season, has really taken a fall. He's only got 10 total points in the last 3 games. But I think he's going to come out against the Colts. And in this super important game, I think he's going to come out, and I think he's just going to own it. I think he's going to have a solid game.
He had a really good start to the year, and then it's kind of just fallen off since then.
Mm-hmm.
And so...
And their offense looks good out there. So, yeah, I think he's going to do well.
If Ryan Tannehill's back, which it looks like he will.
Moore looked solid, even like I don't like saying that, but Moore had flashes last year.
Yeah, he did.
If Moore didn't self-destruct like he did last year, and in the end of games he would self-destruct. They had the Patriots beat in both games, and he just self-destructed. And so I think
I remember
he can
thinking
play
I remember
well.
thinking at times that Moore looked really good last year, but he just never pulled it out. So we'll have to see. All right, we'll move on to our third segment, which is our startups, sit-downs, and in-a-pinches. Start, sit, and then in-a-pinches. If you really need someone, you can go ahead and play these guys. But I'm not making any promises. Although last week I actually did really good. I went through and looked at them all, and they were all pretty solid. My number 1, Sean actually talked about him, which just happens on occasion. We both agree. Cam Newton, my number 1 startup. Definitely start him. He's against Washington, and I think, like I said earlier, I think he's going to bounce back, and I think the whole rest of the year he's going to be a solid starter. He has a really easy schedule coming up, so it should be really nice for all you Cam Newton owners who kind of
stuck it out with him.
Yeah, because I think it will finally start to pay off. I think the same with Steve Smith as well. I think he'll finally bounce back and start to have the games that he was having last year.
And he should,
With Cam
because
Newton
he's a good
struggling,
receiver. Yeah,
he's also been struggling. So that's my number 1. My number 2 is Doug Martin, who, like we talked about, is just incredible. He has the most fantasy points the last 4 weeks. Although it doesn't hurt that last week he scored 36. I think that's definitely a lot of it. But he's versus Oakland. I think you were planning on probably playing him anyway. After that 36-point game, it's pretty hard to sit someone like that. But
yeah,
I kind of wanted to throw that stat out. I liked it.
Yeah, the only negative really with Doug Martin after last game is Nix. I think their left tackle is out for the season.
Oh,
I don't know what's going on with my voice today, but so a lot of people are thinking that might hurt Doug Martin, and it could. And that's the thing is the Raiders are the Raiders. He'll either come out and he'll get completely shut down, or he'll have a huge game. There's not usually an in between with them, because they shut down Jamal Charles, they shut down Atlanta really in a lot of ways.
Kansas City shut down Jamal Charles.
Yeah.
In that game against
Well, they
Oakland.
didn't.
I don't
They
know.
didn't. They didn't let Hillis do great against him either.
Yeah, that's true.
Like McCluster did get a touchdown kind of in garbage time at the very end of the game there. But I think they've played better. But I do agree with you. Martin is special. Like he looked great last week, and they're on the up. Both teams actually are on the up, and so yeah, I think he could very easily take off. I think that's a smart play. I think you got to start him if you got him.
Yeah, you do. That one was kind of more obvious. My number 3 is Jeremy Maclin versus New Orleans Saints. I think, like we talked about, I think Vic and I think every one of his wide receivers. I think if you have any of them, I think you can go ahead and play it. Maclin is kind of the same thing. He's kind of had his ups and downs this year. I was really high on him coming into this year, and so far he hasn't really looked as good as I thought. But that kind of happens. The same thing with Cam Newton and Steve Smith. It's like when you have those teams that are struggling, the whole team seems to kind of struggle, and that's how it's been with Jeremy Maclin. But I think this week, I think they will all have huge fantasy points. So My number 4 is Greg Olson. Going up against Washington, like we talked about, Cam Newton's going to have a big game, and Washington allows the second most fantasy points to tight ends. So I almost put him down in my in a pinch section because he's not really, a well-known tight end, but I think he's good enough to go up there. And my number 5.
He is a. I think he's solid is the thing. I just think that Cam Newton struggled, so he's struggled. And I think if Cam Newton wants to get back to doing good, he's going to have to use Olsen because they have a lot of guys there that are just doing okay. But I think you're right. Their schedule gets a little bit easier, and I think they're all going to improve. So I think that's a good call.
I agree. And my number 5 is the Falcons' defense against Dallas. Falcons' defense has looked pretty good this year, and Dallas is allowing the second most fantasy points to defenses. A lot of that has to do with the fact that Romo just loves to give defenses the ball. Mm-hmm. He's just a huge fan of it. It's part of his game. It's a weird strategy. Yeah. I don't really understand it.
He likes a hard comeback.
I don't know. Yeah, I guess that's where he's going with it. But
and if he's not giving it up, Dez Bryant's fumbling on a punt. So they're bad at not having turnovers.
They love giving the ball to the other, and so I would go ahead and say most of the times any defense against Dallas is pretty good, and this week it happens to match up really, really well.
Yeah, it does.
My sit downs are my number 1 is Christian Ponder. He hasn't really looked that great this year. He's really, really struggled. Sean talked about Percy Harvin not really having that good of a game, and this kind of goes along with that because I think against Seattle, I think they're just going to make him look really bad. So if you have him and you need to play him, I wouldn't do it. My number 2 is pretty much any Indianapolis running back. Did you have something to say?
No, I was going to just say, I feel bad because I like the guy, but he started off okay, and then he's had a hard couple weeks, and I don't think it's going to improve against the Seahawks.
Yeah, I agree. And my number 2 is any Indianapolis running back. When I wrote this, I wasn't sure who was going to be the starter. It looks like they're going to have Donald Brown and Ballard.
And I think you're right. Either one of them, it doesn't matter. Miami's not going to let them get running yards.
Exactly. So I don't think I would play either of them. For one, they're going to be cutting into each other's time, which is a huge deal. And number 2, they're going up against an incredible defense. So it really is kind of depressing if you were waiting on Brown to come back, or if you were one of those people that picked up Ballard, didn't have a great game, but then he had a really good game. And
after you put him back on your bench because Brown was back. So you've had and if you have Indianapolis running backs, you know what it's like. So
you're already there.
This is par for the course.
I'm not telling you anything new, but this week, definitely don't play him. I don't know. I maybe even go as far as
if Indianapolis in practice, Indianapolis running backs going up against Indianapolis's defense, I'd start him then, but not in any other cases I can think of.
My number 3 is Torrey Smith against the Cleveland Browns. I think Torrey Smith is not going to have a very good game. The last 4 weeks, Cleveland has actually allowed the fewest points to wide receivers based on their cornerback that Sean keeps talking about.
Hey, dude.
Coming back. So since he's come back, he has really been a shutdown corner, which everyone knew he would be. He's definitely a talented corner.
And also, if you remember last game against Cleveland that the Ravens had, it really was a lot closer than people are going to give Cleveland credit for. On that last drive, Whedon hit, I think it was Little in the hands in the end zone, and it was in between two guys. It was a forced pass, but it could have been a touchdown to tie it up. And Torrey Smith, there's a simple formula to when you start him. If the Ravens are playing at home, Flacco will play well. If they're playing on the road, Flacco will give the game away. And they're playing on the road, so don't start him.
I don't know what it is, but he is an awful quarterback on the road.
Yeah, it is weird.
And against Cleveland, and that stat right there, though, the fact that Cleveland has allowed the fewest points the last 4 weeks since Hayden's been back is
Hayden's
big.
so good.
So you definitely don't want to play most of your Ravens guys, which is kind of depressing. My number 4 is Brandon Pettigrew, who's looked like an okay tight end this year. He's going up against Jacksonville, which actually allowed the second least fantasy points to tight ends with only 4 a game. So if you have Pettigrew, he's kind of been a play, and he's had some games, but you play him anyway because tight ends have been really weird this year. But if you have him, I would definitely try not to play him.
I agree with you there.
because he's just not going to have that good of a game. And my number 5 is the Steelers D. Like Sean talked about earlier, he talked about the New York Giants D, and I kind of go in the other way. But I think if you have either one, the Steelers are actually the 24th in average fantasy points. There are 23 teams that are averaging more fantasy points defensively than the Steelers.
Yeah, that's
So
crazy.
you can pick up 23 defenses that have averaged more points.
So that means
And-
don't ever play them.
And the New York Giants are allowing the second least points per game. So the Steelers D, even though they looked decent last week, not great, but they looked decent against Washington. We thought they were going to look awful. They actually did do pretty well against RG3.
Well, that's the thing is they're a smart defense. If you have kind of a gimmick, which RG3 is good, but right now a lot of it is his mobility and stuff, and so they just adjusted. They knew how to play him. So yeah, I think you have a good point there. I don't think the Giants are going to go easily.
Yes, and now it's time for In a Pinch. I love my first one. I was actually really excited when I wrote this. I almost took it out, and I'm like, no, I love it. So
I love it.
my number 1 in a pinch is Phillip Rivers tonight. If you are really in a pinch and you have really got to start a quarterback, that shows you how bad Phillip Rivers has been this year.
Yeah, that is quite a pickle to be in.
Kansas City is an awful defense. They're giving up the 7th most fantasy points to quarterbacks. And Sean talked about, was it Monday or Thursday, that even against bad defenses, Phillip Rivers has not been very good. But I'm saying if you're in a pinch and you really need someone, this may be a week to play him. Even then, I almost took him out because I really don't know if I did. If I still don't know if I
It's
even
in a
trust him
pinch.
that
If you're in a
much.
pinch, what else are you going to do? He's a guy who should typically he should have good points against Kansas City. He's a professional quarterback. It's a good in a pinch.
It's very true. My number 2 is also up there as well. Mikel Ashore. Like we've talked about, he just really has not been that good. But he's just had a baby, so I think that alone makes him startable because he's going to be in a good mood. And Jacksonville is giving up the 4th most fantasy points to running backs. So if you have Mikel Ashore and you've kind of been let down, because I think what was the stat that I talked about? He's the only week he's had double-digit fantasy points was the first week he played, which was week 3, and since then he hasn't had a double-digit fantasy point game, which is
Yeah,
not
he's
good. It's not
he's
fun
had
when
a
you're
hard
playing.
time.
so once they reach that double digit, you're okay. Once they reach 10, you're like, okay, that was
Yeah.
good enough. I got
They came
just
out and they
enough.
at least played. Yeah.
But when they get 8, 9, even the 9 is like, really only 9, and then he's had some even worse games than that. So, I think you can definitely play him this week, and hopefully he'll do pretty well. My number 3 is Lance Moore versus Philadelphia. Crazy stat is Lance Moore has had a touchdown in every home game this year, and even going back to last year, he's had touchdowns, and I think the end 3 or 4. So it seems like every home game he gets a touchdown, and they're home
That is
this
cool.
week as well. So he's definitely a good start. My number 4 is Jermaine Gresham, who's had his kind of off and on.
Yeah, he's back
All the
and
tight
forth.
ends have been really back and forth this year. It's been kind of
It's been a low year for tight ends. Gronk has
Yeah.
had a couple huge games, but even he hasn't been consistent. And yeah, so I agree. And Jimmy Graham's been kind of
he hasn't
injured,
been-
so-
Hernandez has been injured. Gates hasn't been very
Gonzalez
good.
has been pretty solid, pretty even.
Vernon Davis has had good and bad games.
Yeah.
It's been a weird for tight ends, weird year. But I think if you need someone, Jermaine Gresham is probably a pretty good pickup against Denver. And my number 5 is the Chargers defense tonight. If you need a defense and you don't have someone, they're going up against Kansas City, which pretty much any defense playing Kansas City puts up really good points. I'm pretty sure that my in a pinch for the whole, I think I may just leave that there. And for the
Forever.
whole rest of the year,
Just switch out whatever D's going against them.
I may not even put the D there. I may just say my number 5 in a pinch is any D against Kansas. The D that's going up against Kansas City, I didn't even bother to look it up.
Because it
I
doesn't
don't
matter.
care which one it is. Go ahead and play them. Just know that it's there. And, yeah, there it is. Chiefs are bad.
I like it.
They're
I
awful.
like it.
They are the worst.
They are just bad.
They are just the worst
All right.
at playing football.
In general. All right. So now we're going to move over to our top 5 games of the week.
Oh, I love this.
Game 1 is the Chiefs and the Chargers, which we've talked a decent amount about.
Yeah, let's take that one out of there. That should not be
Oh.
number one. I'm just kidding.
All right, but it's a hard game because it's
Maybe
two
they'll surprise
teams
us.
there's two teams that have looked really bad but have had their moments, and the Chiefs obviously have a lot worse of a record, and they are playing in San Diego, so I'm gonna say that the Chargers are gonna win, but I don't love it because I think the Chargers could come out and surprise us all and do awful. What do you
That's
think,
true.
Eric?
You never know with either of these two teams, which has to make you feel good as an Oakland Raiders fan.
Yeah.
To just have two of just these awful teams in your same division.
Yeah.
I want to say, mainly because I just said it a bunch of times in this podcast, that Phillip Rivers, didn't say he was going to do good.
Yeah, you just said if you were in a pinch. You didn't say he's going to do insane. And you did talk about the Chargers D, so I think I know where you're leaning. But
I think I also want to go Chargers. The Chiefs have just been just brutal with all their injuries at quarterback and everything else. Cass will be back.
mhm.
And I think the Chiefs defense is just too bad.
All right, what do you think, Lane?
Chargers.
I think that the Chiefs among the teams that will win this game will be the Chargers, and I think the one that's going to be charged with losing will be the Chiefs.
Oh, I got it. I get you.
I did say last week that I wanted this to continue, and I'm so glad it is.
Lane is a witty little guy over there.
He is. That's why he makes the big bucks.
All right,
That
now
is-
all right, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say that's why he makes.
Oh yeah, he
And-
makes all the money.
And that's why he was not even. That's why he was nowhere near the talks of getting traded. Even though people want that.
Yeah, and then
Well, we were getting a hot girl over here, so I was like, I'll stay.
oh,
And then instead,
you're kind of hot like a girl. But
oh, thanks.
all right, but the second game of the week, and it was hard because there's a lot of games I really like in that first bracket of the Sunday games. But I'm going with the Dolphins at the Colts because of what I said. If the season ended today, they'd be the two last teams in the playoffs. They'd be the wild card teams. So I think that it's going to be a crazy, exciting game. And I think the Dolphins D against the Colts offense, and then the Colts D against the Dolphins offense is who's going to be going up against each other in the game. So I'm excited about it.
That's a solid point. I can't argue with that.
Yeah,
I
I
wanted
liked
to.
it. All right, who do you think's going to win this, Eric?
I just think that I think this mainly comes down to the Dolphins defense just being too good, and too legit, and I think that Andrew Luck, as good as he's been,
You think he's going to stumble?
I think he will. I think he'll be out of luck. No, don't do it.
It's all about luck puns all day.
Except that one was the worst one I've ever heard. I'm gonna go Dolphins and
Yeah.
shut my mouth.
What do you think, Lane?
Where are they playing?
They're playing at Indianapolis. So, Colts.
It's gonna be a wet game, and horses can't swim, but dolphins can. I guess
so
that's all I got.
Lane's going Dolphins. I'm actually going to go Dolphins too. You guys are a lot more with me than I thought because I actually chose last intentionally because I thought you guys might choose the Colts, so I'd be able to be like, oh, I'm going against you guys. But no, we all like the Dolphins this week. I think, like that defense is just going to be strong, and I think it's going to be good. I think it's going to be an exciting game, though.
I do too.
All right, and then number 3 game of the week is the Steelers at the Giants, which we've talked a decent amount about. This game is going to be the game of the underrated Giants, who I think the Giants could be the best team in the NFL, and no one would know it. Like they have done so
Kind of
good.
their MO, that's what they do.
Yeah, and that's
Like we're really good, but we make sure no one knows about it.
yeah, and they
we have
love
this
it.
quarterback
They
that
love
kind of looks goofy.
Yeah, they love people
Goofier than
being
Peyton
down on them.
Manning.
It's weird, and yeah, but they've been
I
awesome.
think that's part of the game plan. Let's get down a lot in this one because if we just crush everyone, everyone's going to know we're good. So get
Yeah.
down. But Eli, you got this, right? And he's like, I got it.
Yeah, and in the Steelers have definitely stepped their game up the last few weeks. if you would have told me like 3 weeks ago, I would have not said this would be a good game. But the Steelers have steadily improved. So, yeah. And I got to come out and I got to say that I think the Giants are going to win, which isn't really the boldest pick in the world. But it's in New York. The Giants have just looked so solid lately. But I do think it's going to be a high-scoring, exciting game. What do you think, Lane?
Well, I don't know if you guys have read this book. It's somewhat famous. It's called The Lord of the Rings.
Mm-hmm.
And at this one point, even before that, there's a prequel Hobbit. You maybe heard. I guess they're doing a movie about it. Just because there's a few people that have heard
small little indie movie. I got you.
Yeah. But there's this point that they try to steal from trolls, and trolls are basically giants, and it doesn't go too smoothly until Gandalf shows up, and I just don't think that New Orleans has a wizard on their team. So
Pittsburgh.
I think it's a really, what did I say?
New Orleans. You meant Pittsburgh.
I meant Pittsburgh. Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
So you're going
I
Giants?
think they're in the pits, and you don't steal from giants without a wizard. It's just bad news. They're gonna cook you.
I like it.
And eat you.
I like it. All right, what do you think, Eric?
This is, I think, the best thing we do in the whole podcast.
This is just listening to Lane's stories about the games.
Yes.
They all are good stories.
Everyone must love it.
That actually wasn't my story. That was a Tolkien's story.
Oh yeah, my bad.
It's been in books for quite a while, Sean.
Yeah, I blew it there. I messed that up. Sorry, guys.
I'm gonna go Giants as well.
All right, so we are
Not
all
too good.
going Giants for a giant victory.
Are we 3-0 for all three of them so far?
Yeah.
So we're 3-0-3-0.
Yeah, which is kind of crazy.
It happens.
All right, and the fourth game of the week is the Cowboys at the Falcons, the Sunday night game. And we all saw what the Cowboys can do last week, I think, which is mistake their way out of a win. Because if they would have played as good as they did the third quarter, the whole game, they would have destroyed the Giants. But they just kept throwing interceptions. They kept fumbling the ball. And, yeah, I don't know. It was just bad. So I think this game's going to be crazy because it's in Atlanta. Atlanta's defense has looked great. They're 7-0, and I really want to say the Cowboys because they've looked so good while looking so bad. Like last week's game, I was bought in. I was like, oh my gosh, Des Bryant is really going to win the game right here. And then a fingertip stopped it. Like it was insane to me.
2 inches.
Yeah, and I think it'll be a lot closer than people are thinking, but I have to go with the Falcons. I'm taking the Falcons. What do you think, Eric?
I feel like it's like you said. Like Eli comes back and wins games, and Romo comes back and loses games. Like they have the game in their hands, and Romo's like, nope. Whereas Eli's like, oh, we're out of this, or no, everyone's like, we're out of this, and Eli's like, nope. And I feel the same way. I can't trust Romo to not, even though he did. I mean,
he brought him back.
He did.
You got to give him that. But yeah, the Falcons have
Brought him back just to give it away again.
Yeah,
It was impressive.
That wasn't him. He got the ball where it needed to be. That was if Des Bryant doesn't try to brace himself, which don't get me wrong, people try to brace themselves, they win the game because his butt would have hit first and would have been a touchdown.
That's true.
What do you think, Lane?
Okay, I'm going to go way out on this one because I couldn't get to work. But when you have a bunch of boys riding some cows up against some some hardened criminals, because when you foul against society, you're a con.
Uh-huh.
So I just don't think those boys will stack up against these tough men. Falcons.
I like it.
I'd like to stop.
Yeah, we are all 100% in agreement on all these games. The final game of final game of our top 5 games of the week.
If we're not right, then we all look like idiots.
Yeah, we all go 0-5. That'd look really bad.
That would be awesome.
But the 5th game of the week is Eagles at Saints. And I don't know what to say about this game. I think this could be the most exciting game
I
in a
hope
while.
so.
Like,
I need Vic to just play his ass off. I need it. I want it. I think I like the guy so much, and I'm so tired of people just getting down on him and just saying he's not going to be the starting quarterback anymore.
Whoa. We might need to go to commercial break here.
This is so emotional. What the hell?
So anyways, Eric likes Vic.
Anyway, I like Vic. I want to go Eagles.
Eagles. What are you thinking, Lane?
Who did you pick, or did you not pick?
I
yet,
didn't
Sean?
pick yet.
Woo.
Eric picked Eagles.
Some people
Go.
might feel that like
Pure
last
acting right
weekend was
there.
Halloween weekend, but I feel like this upcoming weekend's the true Halloween weekend.
Uh-huh.
And on a weekend such as that, I feel like you've got good guys and bad guys. And I feel like Halloween's the bad guys kind of holiday. So I don't think the Saints are going to win. I think it's going to be all about the team that goes and eggs all the houses. That's right, the Eggalls.
The Eagles. I love it. All right, and I'm also going to go with the Eagles. We all went 5 for 5 on that. And I want to take the Saints, but I think if the Saints had as much trouble as they had against Denver last week, I just
they
think
look
they're going to
bad.
play terrible against the Eagles.
I think the Eagles need this win. They need it, and they need it bad.
Yeah, so we are all 5 for 5. We're all Chargers, Dolphins, Giants, Falcons, and the Eagles guys this week. So, yeah, that's the games of the week.
There it is. We got 2 minutes. We did get a few questions this week. Do you have those pulled up, or
Yeah, I got a question on Twitter, and I'll just kind of
we'll just do that
go
one
over
real
that.
quick, and then
And this is from our boy B Hunt. He always is tweeting at us on Wednesdays because he knows we're going to answer the questions before the Thursday night game. And he asked, he said, all right, at flex, Ben Jarvis, Green Ellis, Hartline, or Mike Williams, Vikings defense or Broncos defense, and finally Jason Hansen or Walsh. And I said the Colts D is awful, so take a shot at Hartline in flex. And then I said start the Vikings D.
bold because you're really down on the Vikings D.
Yeah, I don't.
You cried about it for a whole week.
Well, the thing is, I think
He doesn't really.
yeah, I think Cincinnati's gonna put up points against the Broncos D is the main reason why I chose the Vikings D. And then also the Vikings are going up against Seattle, and Seattle is not going to put up a ton of points, I don't think. I think Seattle will probably ultimately win that game, but I don't think they're going to put up like 30 points or anything.
Yeah, they usually don't.
And then I said go with Walsh because Seattle is good at stopping touchdowns, so they'll be kicking a lot of field goals. And yeah, that's what I'm thinking. And that's the thing is the way he set up that question. I don't know how he managed to do it. I'm either going to look like a genius, or I'm going to look like a complete idiot. I think like it's one of those things where it's like if Seattle comes out and owns and like somehow just stops the Vikings from doing anything, then I'll just look like an idiot with that. And then Hartline could easily not do anything. I just have a feeling about this week. So yeah, that was that question.
All right, there it is.
Oh yeah, it's game time.
That is our podcast for the day. Thank you, everybody, for listening.
Yeah, we had fun
Subscribe
talking
us.
to you.
Ask us questions. We would like a few more.
Yeah, we love questions.
We do. We love them. We can't get enough of them. We're just ecstatic about them.
We just like to fill all y'all's presents. So go tweet at us. Go to our website, vote on our polls. Go to Facebook, like us. Go to Tumblr, throw up a picture of something and be like, oh, look, here's this guy that they talked about on Fantasy Top 5. Go do any of that. Come while we're doing our podcast and talk to us on Justin TV. Download our podcast and comment on it. Any of that, just do any of it. We love to see it. So yeah, what were you gonna say, Lane?
Oh, we're kind of out of time. I was just going to ask you though. I had a question.
Oh.
Earlier, you said you think you'd make a pretty good StarCraft 2 podcaster.
Okay.
I was just wondering if you could name one StarCraft 2 player, a single one. What's his name? Gordon Hayward doesn't count.
Oh, that's what I was gonna say.
He only won one match at the IPL entry.
Okay.
Yeah, but he did play last night for the Jazz. So
Yeah, he did do very well for the Jazz. All right, I'm not gonna finish googling professional
I'm kidding.
StarCraft 2 players, but that's a good question. Lane called me out on my crap.
Oh man, yeah. Don't ask us hard questions.
I figured I'd just wing it like I do here. I mean, what? No, but we're all still here. We made it past the trade deadline. So thanks for coming and hanging out.
Fantasy Top 5. Tweet us your questions.
Yeah, and we're gonna drop
see you Monday.
the peace out. So we're just gonna say for today, we love you guys so much, and we will see you on Monday.
I'm still gonna say peace out.
All right, I'm Sean.
And I'm Eric.
Peace.
Out.